Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Podcast Assemble, a show where we talk about all of our geeky interests. A show we talk about movies and TV shows, comic books, and video games. My name's Tommy, and I'm delighted as always to be joined by my friend and co-host from across the pond. It's DL. Hello, mate.
Bonjour, Tommy.
Stick it with which character are you this week?
Oh, just this is me
It's a
practicing.
French guy.
Yeah, this is me practicing French, bro. It's only 2 words I know. I think it's really lovely to meet you, which obviously we've been doing this podcast for a bit, so it's not really.
Well, I've just met the French version of you.
Yeah,
That's fantastic. I think each of your characters every week should have a different how they react to the stuff we talk about.
No, I don't actually. I can't do.
Can't keep up French for the whole time.
What is that? Well, definitely can't do that. I forget who the hey character is. Fat Albert. I can't do Fat Albert for that long. Yeah.
Oh, damn it. But that's a deep cut Fat Albert. I don't know if half the people who listen to this would actually know who Fat Albert is.
This is a 90s thing.
Yeah. Jesus. How are you, mate? What have you been up to?
Same old. Another episode of something. Another one of something else. You know what? I've been itching to rewatch Entourage and get a little
a little bit of Lil Jon. Lil Jon, maybe.
A little John in there as well. Isn't that the way it goes? Yeah.
Oh
no, you're right. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And the door,
oh my God.
Yeah. And then the door shuts, and it's like the suicide doors.
Yeah. We've talked about Entourage so many times. I love the first 3 seasons of that show.
My mind has been enabled.
Yeah. Did you not always just desperate to see that Aquaman movie?
Dude, it's funny you should say that. Like, I was, but then I was also like, how would they ever, like, that movie would actually suck. Like,
James Cameron, though. James Cameron.
No, but it's what I thought when I was like, I was like actually thinking about it deeper.
Because it's Aquaman.
I was like, it broke Spidey's record, but like, would it really?
Broke Spidey's record. Yeah, come on.
That's what they said in the Entourage. Do you remember?
Yeah,
I've got the theaters.
Yeah, they were partying with some 15-years-olds or something. Do you remember how that show is super problematic at times?
I love that.
It was so weird.
But that's like part of it.
And then they were like, yeah,
Hollywood's problematic at times.
Have our Maserati. We don't need it. It's like, yeah, you do. You need to get home.
Uber wasn't existing at this point.
No, like early 2000s.
No, there was a dope movie the only movie I really wanted to watch was the first one that he got really famous off.
The one that was like black and white.
And he's like, I am Queens Boulevard.
Yes, that one. Queens Boulevard. I definitely wanted to see that.
I would be down to see that one.
I was listening to one of my other favorite podcasts recently, and they were actually talking about, stupidly enough, like how crap this show was.
Yeah.
Do you not think though that like Vinny Chase is like just a bit of a vacuum for like all charisma?
Okay.
For charisma. I mean, probably that too.
Well, I mean, he was in season 6 or something.
He was all the way through, man. Like, he's the least likable main actor I've ever seen in my entire life.
I think the point is he's just like I like
everything
Vinny.
just goes right for him. Why are we talking about Entourage? Come on, let's quickly.
Point. Most things do go right for him.
We could talk about this all night. Anyway, so mate, what have you been up to? Tell me, what's been happening? What are these show and a different show you've been watching?
I've been watching Lupin.
Really?
Lupin. I should say.
Hence the French guy.
How did I fuck that up? It's hence the French. No, I've been watching it. It's one of the few that.
So that is a French show, right?
Yeah, it's a Netflix original, but it's French. Like the French, I think the French part of the studio made it. I don't know.
Is that a show that you can watch in your girlfriend's native language and you have to have the subtitles for?
Yeah, exactly. So we got
that's
to be
a nice change up for
her. And it's like, honestly, it's good.
I've heard good reviews.
It's good. The way all the French people were like chatting about it though, in my little French crew.
Yeah.
Like you thought it was the second coming of Christ, bro. It's not that good. It's like it's still got some tropey things. Tropey things. That I thought were like kind of gimmicky, but like it's compared to what she usually makes me watch.
You hear that car backfire?
Compared to what she usually makes me watch, fuck you, car. It's amazing.
I'm too lazy to cut it out.
It's amazing compared to that.
Oh, nice, cool. So what else have you been up to?
Yeah, and then I also have been, season 5, episode 8 of The Expanse is one of the best episodes of television.
What are you watching it? You still on Amazon?
I did the free trial for Amazon.
It's like 30 days,
cancel
right?
it within the next 30 days.
Yeah.
Got 25 days.
Dude, you've got to fit in the boys as well.
No, I'm going to Melbourne, so I'll get some episodes.
You've got the boys on your laptop. I gave you the boys.
Yeah, it's on Gail's laptop, but yeah, you're right. But my point is, I don't have season 2. I just have season 1.
Season 1.
Just have season 1. But the point is that episode, season 5, episode 8, which I remember exactly what part of the book it is too. It's like one. It's
you know it out in the books as well.
Yeah, it's a climax. It's like it was so well done.
Okay,
I'd compare it to almost like so Game of Thrones season like 6 when you get like the Jon Snow reveal. You get there was a bunch of stuff that happened like
season.
A bunch of stuff happens all at once, and it's like
one
big build up.
Season 8 or 7?
Not season 6.
It's not season 6.
It is. I'm telling you, you hate season 6 for no reason.
There's 7 whack episodes. Nothing happens for 7 episodes, and there's 3 good at the end. That ratio, you would not get away with that ratio.
I don't agree.
On any TV show, 30% ratio, 30% good ratio.
Your premise, I disagree with. Anyway.
Name one thing that happens in the first 7 episodes, other than Baelish takes Sansa to old mate and she marries him.
I gotta recall all of Game of Thrones, to be fair.
Yeah, true. Well, funny enough, nice little segue there. Speaking of Game of Thrones, I actually started to watch the first episode again this week. I flicked it on and I was like, I got super jazzed for it. I was like, you know what? It's time. I put it on. I got halfway through and I was so excited watching it. I then went, I literally 30 minutes of the episode, I went, can I take getting this excited again? And then having the disappointment of season 6 onwards.
Stop it with this season 6
I was like, can I take the disappointment of how this show ends? And after 35 minutes, I turned it off. I'm gonna carry on at some point. So I do want to rewatch it, but it's just like I was so disappointed. I was like, literally, I got so excited to watch it. I was like, this is gonna be so good.
It is. It's part of it. It's part of it. Ugh. But what I will say, going back full circle, is this episode has like that layer to it. It's almost like if you had like the Red Wedding episode, but like that with every single character arc, crazy bad shit happening that you didn't expect across every single character arc, all in one episode. Okay. And it's all coming to a climax at the same time. It's a great episode of television. Anyway,
I wanted to watch that anyway, but
I highly encourage you to. That's all I've been watching though. So we've been in those 2.
Anything else?
No, it's been pretty locked in this week to those 2.
Well, I like I say, I did that, and then I actually then flicked over at that exact point, and I decided we've been talking about the new Godzilla vs. Kong movie so much, I got really excited about that, and I watched Godzilla King of Monsters, the leading up one to the one that's coming out soon, and it falls into a lot of, I'm going to use the word cliches because we're going to use a different word a lot later on. There are a lot of cliches in that movie. I, however, kind of enjoyed it. Like, don't get me wrong, there's probably an hour of nonsense of humans which makes absolute no difference to the plot. Yeah. There's a massive, like, what's the word I was using? There's a MacGuffin, absolute dire MacGuffin where they've somehow mapped the sounds all these animals make, and they can... Have you seen the movie? Have you seen it?
No.
Because you're going to have to watch it before we go and see the new
That's fine.
So it's really, I want to see it because obviously it leads into the next one, the one that's coming out in cinemas like next month, and there's a lot of interesting elements to the trailer that, because people are talking about the trailer and they think that there are hints that there's going to be a Mecha Godzilla in there. So at the end of this movie, you see the Godzilla we're seeing looks kind of injured when it like creeps away back into the water or whatever, and you're a bit, and you don't think anything of it at the time, but when you see the new trailer, you see Godzilla and King Kong are like relatively the same size, which is absolutely not right because the Godzilla in this movie is massive. It's significantly larger than it looks in the trailer. So there's people like there's a lot of rampant fan theories that there could be like that Godzilla could have died in the Godzilla universe. There are usually in the movies 2 Godzillas, so or 2 creatures of the same lineage that you call Godzilla. And when you see the new one, you see that the King of Monsters, that Godzilla is like the biggest thing you've ever seen. And when you see the new trailer, you're like, that's either some bad...
It's the baby.
Yeah, that's it. They've either not watched their own movies or something's going on
Could
here.
Be,
so the studios are saying that at the end of the movie, one's going to come out on top and there's going to be a clear winner. I think it's going to be a play on, like, I think it's going to be that they fight for a bit and then they end up being mates at the end of it and they fight against a common goal. Yeah. And the play on words is that the Godzilla, that King Kong beats the original Godzilla, which is a mech Godzilla now, which is going to be weird and nonsensical, but I like it. Anyway, I've talked about this film for 10 fucking minutes now.
So that's what you've been watching.
Might as well be doing a review on that. Yeah, I actually finished reading Secret Invasion this week,
nice.
Which it's not a huge one. I'm going to actually lend it to you. I think you should read it too, because I would like to do an episode on Secret Invasion. Obviously, with the TV show coming up, it would be interesting to maybe have a chat about that at some point, if you'd like to do that.
Yeah, fair.
Cool. Well, this week...
Yeah, what have
you heard? Have you heard? There has been a lot going on this week in terms of news articles, what's been happening. Well, first and foremost, have you heard that Nintendo reportedly had a deal with Netflix, which got leaked online, and they've apparently scrapped all of their projects, including a Zelda series?
Really?
Yeah, apparently so. This is IGN reporting this, and I've actually heard it in a couple of places. It's really interesting.
Well, it makes sense.
They just threw all their toys out the pram.
So they were basically they were going to do it, now they're not.
Huh?
They were going to do it, and now they're not.
They had a deal with Netflix, and now they put it on hold after everything's been leaked.
Why would you? That's interesting. Like, why would you put it on hold after the leak?
Well, Nintendo are very cautious about their properties ever since the Super Mario movie, and as would you be if that movie was released and had your logo.
I never
had
saw
your
it,
biggest franchise in the middle of it.
I mean, how did they think that was going to be a good idea? To be fair, but
I don't think they thought about it. No, the story is that they just didn't have any influence. So it's like, yeah, go and have fun.
The Legend of Zelda would be a tough one to make a movie about anyway, because the stories are so repetitive. But anyway,
I quite like it. I think it would be real interesting. But it's interesting because you're actually playing the game now.
Yeah, I just don't think that that's why it's good. I think that like Legend of the gameplay is so good, and like you kind of are okay that the story is repetitive.
Right.
As long as like the art style is cool, and I just don't know that like the things that I get out of Zelda I would translate to a movie well.
It wasn't just Zelda. It was I think it would be a TV show, and it's a lot of
even a TV, any medium that isn't a video game.
I think it was a lot of Nintendo properties by the sounds of it. But I think the key one that got scrapped was Zelda. It's interesting that that's your thoughts on it, because I thought you'd have been hyped for a Zelda game.
Nah, because it's not like a Red Dead movie, sure, because that's what drives the fucking thing is the story.
The one game that I'm never going to let you live down that you forgot to talk about.
But like, or a Mass Effect where like there's lore, but like the lore is so convoluted and not really thought out in Zelda. It's more about the gameplay and the art style and like.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, did you hear? Actually, this is just one that I've heard of today, our time, that it's been reported that Keanu Reeves has been approached to join the Sony Spider-Verse which could be part of the MCU, but who knows, as Kraven the Hunter. He's a classic Spider-Man villain who was super campy in like the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
He wears like a big like lion pelt over his top, and so he had some weird powers like through the years. Like one of his powers was he could like shoot like lasers from his nipples. He's essentially a hunter, right?
Okay.
And there is a real iconic Spider-Man storyline called Kraven's Last Hunt, where he actually defeats Spider-Man, and it's actually very.
So you reckon they're going to use that storyline in the?
They could easily do that.
Do they usually? I mean, more broadly, do they usually use the storylines that are the most popular ones in the comics, or do they?
Oh, I mean, Civil War, yeah.
Is that
Infinity War? Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
If those are the most...
So, like in terms of the big crossover ones, Age of Ultron, these have all been very much tentpole parts of the comics. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense. But at the same time, Keanu Reeves isn't a person I'd have down to be Kraven the Hunter. Kraven the Hunter is massive. He's like this hench hunter guy. I mean, they could obviously change it. The MCU has done a really good job of changing it, but we don't know. We've only seen Venom from the Sonyverse so far, and that wasn't that great.
I didn't hate it. I just didn't love it.
I wasn't the biggest fan. I mean, I fell asleep.
There were parts that were.
I fell asleep twice, and I don't fall asleep in movies.
Yeah, but there were parts that was better than a lot of the it was better than Wonder Woman 2. By far.
Hey, here's the real question though. Did you think Venom was better than Aquaman 2018?
Yes. Yes, it was.
Well, we should actually say that because we could even do a review on that at some point, because Spider-Man movies come up. It'd be funny to
It'd be cool if they had Tom Holland and him in a movie together. But
Tom Hardy.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Tom.
Putting all the politics aside, I think it'd be cool if they did it. Like just as I'd like to see them together in a movie. It'd be funny.
I don't care about that.
News-wise, so the source code for all of CG Projekt Red's games apparently got hacked.
Oh God, really?
Like literally all of them. Witcher 3.
How does that happen?
I don't know. It's some fucking crazy hackers.
So what's the fallout from this? Like, is all that shit online?
So they're threatening to dump it all online or sell it to someone.
Oh, how?
And if they don't, pay them up in 48 hours. Also, all their emails. So stuff that maybe might come out about how the game wasn't ready for shipping and they did it anyway.
As in Cyberpunk.
Yeah, as in Cyberpunk.
That's
Cyberpunk also was one of the ones that got, more importantly,
that's interesting because we were talking about that.
Yeah, we'll see.
I honestly think that wasn't ready.
No, it wasn't. And I think that it was like a board thing where they're like, we need money.
We need money. Yeah.
So interesting. We'll see if
because I've seen a bunch of things on that recently, like the next gen versions of the game do look pretty good, and I don't know how they run, but they look great.
Those games, I mean, the next gen. Actually, did they even release the next gen yet, or is it still?
Yes.
Anyway, they look. Those ones are apparently much better, but this gen not getting the love. So there was that one. Chloe Zhao to write and direct a futuristic sci-fi western reboot of Dracula.
Oh, I did hear that.
Which is that's just like random and out of left field. But
do we need another Dracula?
I never watched. How many have you? I haven't seen any of them.
So many fucking Draculas.
I'm sure there are. I just haven't seen.
Did you see the most recent Netflix one? I think it was BBC and Netflix, maybe.
You mean Luke Evans?
No. You sure it's Luke Evans? Are you sure?
My favorite Luke?
No, I can't always remember who it was, but it was Stephen Moffat. It was really weird, and I don't know if we've talked about this before. It was just baffling. Like the first episode was like this sort of set in like the 1800s, like gruesome, like fucked up tale. It was actually really good.
Sounds cool.
Yeah,
maybe I'm fucked up in the head.
It was. I think it was only 4 episodes, and then for no reason it just went to the future. And you were just like in modern times, and it was like, what? Yeah. It was like this, like back scratch. Like, how did I end up here? It's like, what the fuck is happening? It was so odd. It was very good. Like that one episode, they just stick with that first episode. If you're gonna see a new
Dracula, it has to be either like that, like medieval weird style,
agreed.
Or it's got to be something crazy weird that you would have never thought about, like a sci-fi western reboot.
I think they did that, didn't they? Didn't they do a sci-fi western?
That sounds to me like that sounds to me like the fucking Stephen King series, The Dark Tower.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Which I think they did make a movie that was terrible.
I think they're doing it as a show.
They made one movie.
I think they're making a show of it as well.
And it was like Idris Elba. And apparently the whole series. I was like, how are you going to make a whole series of 7 books the size of like literally like a PlayStation console? The types of shit each one. And you're going to make it into one movie. This is the dude.
I think they're making it into a TV show as well.
Who approved that?
Well, did you hear this week, just skipping on because we could talk about vampires all evening, that Superman and Lois is getting a 2-hour premiere on the 23rd of February. And some of the initial reviews are coming in, and they're apparently very good. We did hear this, though, about Wonder Woman, though.
Is this a show or a movie?
It's a TV show, yeah. It's on CW. Yeah. It's part of that universe.
I'm out of CW. CW's not in my to-do list. I just don't have the time, man. If I was in, like, high school and had all the time in the world, sure, I would be a little less, like, I guess... What is it? What's the word I'm looking for? Snobbish.
Sure.
With my shows, but like, dude, I just don't have time.
All right.
CW they haven't earned my respect.
Well, did you hear that the MCU has recast Thor? Well, it hasn't. Jack Black did an incredible like skit on his Instagram of him dressed as Thor doing all this dumb shit. It was fucking funny, and it comes at the same time as we're gonna probably maybe touch on WandaVision in a minute, recasting a main character. So it was very fun. I'm just gonna do a couple of other quick bits of Did You Hear before I quickly move on. Did you hear this week that Tom Holland has denied Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are going to be in Spider-Man 3?
Which is basically confirmation.
Well, I actually put a tweet out on this today, and like I laughed. I was like, well, if you were Marvel and Tom Holland spoils everything, will you tell him that was going to happen in the movies? This was an interview he did with, I think, Esquire.
Well, I mean, it's not like you would tell him, bro. Like, the movie's obviously made right now, though. He would know. He filmed it. Like, that's not the point.
I wouldn't tell him shit, personally.
It's still a funny joke.
You must have heard about the official first look at Zack Snyder's Joker in the Justice League.
I did.
It looks like he's in a nightmare realm. It looks very cool.
It's black and white, isn't it?
Yeah, his picture face. The first thing you notice is that the tattoos have gone from the Suicide Squad. He's got long hair. He looks very like.
I wonder how much of
very butcher.
I wonder how much of this like is reshot. A lot of it then.
He's reshot. He's done a fair bit of reshoots by the sound of it. Yeah, it's really interesting, and that's a dark ass shot. Like I'm intrigued to see where that goes.
Yeah.
You even admitted last week you were excited.
I'm down at this point. Well, like it's getting proper hype. It's going to be long form. I like it.
I do think we should probably break it up into 2 chunks. So I don't want to watch 4 hours.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, I don't have time to watch 4 hours. 4 hours.
We're gonna do it on a weekend, sure.
Yeah, 4 hours.
Sure, it'll take like a Saturday and then come back on a Sunday.
Yeah,
okay. All right. I mean, that's pretty much it for the news this week. If you guys want to let us know any news, any have we heards that maybe we haven't mentioned, let us know at pod_assemble. That's right. Yeah, that's the one. pod_assemble. Anyway, I'm excited to know what your thoughts on the WandaVision from this week.
It's time for we haven't even gotten to the main topic theme. I forgot about WandaVision.
We haven't even got to the main topic. Let's quickly touch on it.
WandaVision, I, again, like, really enjoying watching it. I can't wait to watch it next. I'm now officially like, okay, this is a part of the MCU. I'm stoked.
Yeah.
Right, because it's expanded. But, God, I was a little over how sitcom this episode was. Like, I want them to cut more and more of that.
There's such a moan about
it. It seems like they're doubling down on it, and I get it. They're doing every decade, but dude, it was way more time on that than it.
Bro, it set up so many things for the. You must not have been paying attention.
No, it did.
So much happened in that episode.
I'm enjoying it. I enjoyed the episode. I enjoyed it. I just I literally the tonal shifts were too hard for me this episode. I'm like, I don't care that their dog died, and then obviously when they it went and did a really cool thing where it's like, oh, Wanda's having to deal with death and she's remembering her brother and she's like, oh, where is my limit? Can I actually resurrect someone from the dead? That part was interesting.
Or do you think it was someone trying to? Or do you think it was someone trying to manipulate her to try and resurrect the dead? Look at it. The kids were almost like the twins from The Shining. They were like, come on, Mom.
Well, maybe they will become villains if they're actually kids. And there's and I've heard.
And she couldn't control them either. You found that out in the episode as well. She tried to put them to sleep. It didn't work. She tried to stop them doing the powers. Didn't work.
Starting to lose
Lots of other stuff happened in this. We found out that there was an interesting reveal about Monica Rambeau. That when they did her blood works, there was nothing there. So there's a lot of.
She's going to be like a superhero now.
There's a lot of talk that she might take because in the comics she's taken up a superhero mantle before. I think it's Photon she's called. So that's a possibility. We found out so much. This episode was
they did a lot of seeding in this episode, which is what we thought they were going to do with this show.
Did you not think it was awesome the bit where they showed how she stole the Vision's body? That was insane.
No, that was cool. All that stuff I loved. It was just the bits where it went full house. I was like, oh, I don't care. They had a song,
but they're chipping away at her psyche the whole
time. I wanted less of that.
You mean different things on the show? It's so interesting.
No, I like those moments when they're chipping at her psyche, but it didn't feel like every scene was that. Maybe I need to rewatch it, but
I've actually watched it twice. It's the first one I've double watched.
I get bored by those segments, and then eventually towards the end, they'll trigger something where it's her psyche's changing and you realize something's off.
You have to be paying attention all the way up to that point. There's little hints of stuff. And the bit at the end where her and Vision fall out.
That was awesome. And that's what I want more.
But you also find out that he doesn't remember his life. So has he been hard rebooted? Has his memory completely gone without the Mind Stone?
But which is weird also because it's well then how do you remember her? Maybe she set him up with a base set of memories that are manipulated and
Maybe. Who knows? It's so interesting.
No, I love that stuff. It was just and the scenes I love when it's spooky and you're like when the scenes when the guy comes out of the trance and the fucking work and he's just help me that was cool. You got shivers.
Did you notice as well? Agnes doesn't respond to what's going on. She doesn't she's always around them when she's doing magic and stuff, and she doesn't flinch. She's just cool.
Yeah, it is weird how she's out. She's not. She doesn't seem to be the same way that guy. Yeah. The guy.
Yeah.
What's his name? The Indian guy looks like.
I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
Guy.
Anyway, the guy co-worker of Vision.
Yeah.
He was way more entranced, right? Whereas everyone else seems to kind of be aware of what's happening and okay with it. Some people.
Not from what Monica said. When they questioned Monica about it, it was Vision was just essentially controlling everything she did. Sorry, Wanda was controlling everything she did. Yes.
But why is this Agnes and also one of the other people who almost reveal it to Vision?
Agnes could be outside of control. So there is a lot of speculation that the big reveal at the end. Why don't we give a spoiler warning for WandaVision? Yeah. Spoiler warning for WandaVision. The big reveal at the end of Quicksilver's return, but the Evan Peters version of Quicksilver, which is obvious from the X-Men, this could be one of, in very, very broad strokes, there are obviously a lot of other things it could be. Obviously, it could be bringing X-Men from the X-Men universe, showing that the multiverse is now completely blown wide open.
Yeah.
Or it could be someone pretending to be him, who's just projecting that version of himself, that look onto himself to trick Wanda. And there's a lot of talk. It could be Mephisto, who is obviously the MCU's kind of one of the devil type people. It feels like we could talk about this all night. We probably,
I definitely
should have done mini eps on this.
Yeah.
Like, to be perfectly honest, to get a bit of content.
I definitely enjoyed it.
I think it's ramping up. It's going to be super awesome. I can't wait to do our like breakdown at the end. It's going to be so much fun. We're penciling in. So what the interesting thing is, that finishes, and then there's a week break, and then we get Falky and Bucky boys. Bucky Soldier Boy, tell him.
Soldier Boy, watch me.
And that, so we get a week break, and then we get that. But there's also a rumor that there might be a secret 10th episode to WandaVision, which I'm...
How about the biggest flex ever? Wanda just putting the credits up on Vision. Like,
how good was that?
Such a flex.
Like, that's what I mean. Like, I love shit like that. Like,
that was
the little
cool.
tropes that they completely subvert all the time.
No, they're doing a really good job of it as well. I'm not... It was not... It's just more my preference. It's not like...
That was the best episode so far for me.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay. Glad we're somewhat on the same page. Anyway, it does, like I say, it does a really good job of subverting tropes of a lot of not only superhero stuff, but also TV show stuff. And that's a lovely little segue into our main topic. Do you want to do the main topic?
Theme.
Yes. On getting ahead of it.
Tropes.
Yeah. What are we talking about this week?
Tropes we don't like, and with the superhero flavor, but like also other stuff.
Superhero
and then
movie
maybe a
tropes
couple that we kind
big.
of are okay with, and when we're okay with them, but
Yeah,
mostly
I like
ones we don't like.
Yes. Exactly. So what
we're tired of, I guess.
Yes, and I think a lot of the fun thing about doing this podcast is we talk about dumb stuff, but also we repeat ourselves a lot, and then you can sort of pin down the bits where we've been like, that's a dumb thing we've mentioned a bunch of times. That's a dumb thing we've mentioned a bunch of times. So I love the idea of talking about stuff that, not that we're necessarily like sick of, but we've seen so many times. It's like, fuck.
So
man.
One that I didn't even tell you about that I want to kick it off.
Let's kick off with this. Yeah, go. Yeah. Hit me first one.
The chase scene.
The chase scene.
The chase scene.
The chase. Go on.
I just don't need any more chase scenes of like really
chase
scenes of like two superheroes flying really fast, like in the sky after each other. Like at least like if you're gonna do a chase scene, it needs to be like non-special effects, like a good car chase, like a Bourne movie. But like if you're gonna do a chase scene where friggin' Iron Man's chasing Thor, or fucking somebody's chasing somebody else in the sky, all CGI, like it's just like I'm done with it. Like, well, and definitely don't make it like Howard the Duck length. Like if you're gonna do it, have it be quick.
Well, one that I actually took off my list is very similar to this. It's the scene, and you probably don't even notice you've seen it, but it's in so many movies. The scene where a much bigger bad guy is chasing a much smaller good guy through a place. So, like, the perfect example of this is, it's a chase scene, essentially. Do you remember in the first Avengers movie when Hulk is freaking out and he's chasing Black Widow down a little corridor and things like explode?
Yeah.
That happens in so many movies.
That is such a trope.
Like, I saw that
like any monster movie. Was in Jurassic Park.
I put it in my thing because of Godzilla King of Monsters. Can you believe it's in that fucking movie as well?
Yeah, I would.
So that's sort of the type of thing we're looking at, right? Like this sort of overused jazz that's complete bollocks. But everyone sort of picked up on and gone, that's a good shot. Let's use that exact fucking thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, my first one, and I think you'll appreciate this.
Yeah.
I want to get this out of the way up top because this is the most egregious comic book trope we've had probably for the last, I'm going to go almost 15 years. Like, this has been a staple of every comic book movie for so long now. And it's not necessarily a blue, but a light beam in the sky.
Like a satellite.
The bad guys have got to stop so that a thing ends. And, oh my God, it's in everything. Avengers. It's in Man of Steel. Fantastic Four. Pick a fucking movie. It's in there, and they even sneak it in sometimes. Like we joked about Wonder Woman 84 a lot, and we probably should, because I should be by that movie.
The fucking,
but there was a fucking
technology.
light beam through the technology, and I was like, I sat there and I chuckled to myself, and I look at you and I was like, I'm not even going to bother to. Like,
I'm done with this.
I don't even need to tell you. Yeah,
shit.
It's like there's got to be more creative ways, and obviously
even the shitty Batman movie had one. The one we had to watch for
Batman and Robin. Of course they fucking did. Oh my God.
No, you're right. That's a terrible one.
Like that for me, and if you think about how long they've been doing that, like that probably predates the Avengers movie.
Oh, for sure.
Like that is just painful.
X-Men, I'm sure, had one with Phoenix. Like whatever her name is, the light going out. I'm sure.
I'm pretty sure they did a very similar thing in the first X-Men movie. You know, when they're on top of the Eiffel Tower.
Yes,
The Statue of Liberty.
Like Storm does one too. Like,
and it's a big ball around them. It's not necessarily the light directly in the sky, but it's a big ball around them. They've got to stop, and it's all light. And oh my god, it's like, guys.
So yeah, we're done with that. We're done with those. I agree. So MacGuffins in general.
Oh my god,
get rid of like if you can't come up with a better concept than like having it be called a MacGuffin. Like if there's not enough substance that I can call it a MacGuffin, like think harder about the thing you're using to drive the big problem that everyone's trying to solve. Yeah. Like, and I'm sorry, I'm calling out a grade on this. Christopher Nolan. Okay. And Tenet, like the random, what is the thing that they had to get?
Well, if you're talking about Christopher Nolan,
it was like a weapon of some kind.
Well, if you're talking about Christopher Nolan and superhero movies specifically, if you remember in the first Batman movie he did, fuck me, the MacGuffin in that was a thing that could turn water into it vaporized water.
Yeah.
And if that was real, we'd all be fucked. We would just explode, and it would be a horrible, painful death.
So you're just talking about the plot art, like that.
No, that is literally a MacGuffin, though.
It's a big plot hole.
Unbelievable. Like,
that is a MacGuffin, but you're right. It's a bit of a MacGuffin, but it's more of a... It's just a bigger plot hole. Like, what about the fact that we're all made of water?
Oh my god, there's so many of these things, and like even some egregious thing. Like we all know, Infinity War and Endgame, phenomenal movies, like but end to end. But there's still a big MacGuffin in there, like the glove.
The glove, like I guess the reason I thought about that and was like that qualifies as non-MacGuffin for me is because so much work was put into like seed Infinity Stones, and each one had something different, and each one had its own story. And the Gauntlet, it would have been cool if we got a little more lore about how the Gauntlet was made, but we did get some. We did get some. So I think it's a little more fleshed out.
So I think this is one that's on the borderline for me. This isn't just a crap MacGuffin. Yeah, I think there are some examples of it being done well. For example, that is one like idea that works well overall, whereas just a trinket that starts the whole plot, like sorry I have to bring this back at Wonder Woman 84, it's like it's a goddamn stone that grants wishes. Like come on, like give me.
I mean, dude, that's I hate to admit it, but the biggest MacGuffin of them all is Dark Crystal. Like the crystal, like they never really get into like why anyone should care about it, but it like powers the entire plot. Like literally the entire thrives on this crystal that it matters, but like you never know why.
There you go.
But anyway,
my next one then is and this is just so egregious. Like characters, so not necessarily like a superhero character, but like a main character who is a human being who gets hit or gets knocked into something or gets pushed off a building, who takes a hit that is clearly gonna fucking kill them, and they just get up and walk it off. It's like I can only suspend my disbelief so far, like so many times.
And it's more just like don't do those big ones unless you're gonna make a joke of how he's fine because he's like a badass. I mean, but like having someone, and this will lead good into my next one, that's like breakable, survive that is like really lame as well.
Absolutely nonsense.
Like it's just like come on.
Absolutely. Like any time Hawkeye is on scene
or
on screen,
even Batman, sometimes I'm like, bro, like you'd be dead.
Oh my god, the perfect example. So many times I'm like, and then I think the reason I brought this one up, and it's not technically like a superhero movie, but like the reason I brought this up was I was actually watching a dumb thing on YouTube, and it showed the clip. Do you remember in Mission Impossible when it's actually in the fucking trailer for one of the movies, and like a missile hits right next to Tom Cruise, and he flies sideways into a car. I was like, his insides are vaporized right now.
There's so many Mission Impossible ones. There's so many Mission Impossible ones where you're like, nah, dude, not real. How about the badass normal guy? A hero or villain who's like strong and capable, has no superpowers, but just like hangs out with these guys with superpowers and they're cool with it. Like Hawkeye as an example. It's like, dude, surely they'd be like, yo, sit this one out, man. Yeah. Like, I literally am indestructible. I'm a god. Like there's... you have a bow and arrow. This is an archaic medieval weapon. You don't even have a gun. Like, literally a samurai.
I love how they made him like the glue for Endgame. Like, how is that guy?
Yeah. Like I actually like the actor, so like it's a good thing.
Jeremy Renner.
Yeah, like
apparently he had a bit of Me Too stuff problematic. Like really? In the middle of that kind of got hushed.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't hear about it. But yeah, I'll
But that's real funny because like when you mentioned that, the first thing my mind went to was Kick-Ass. But that's a different way of looking at it. So no one in that universe is super powered.
I think it helps when no one does.
Yeah.
It makes it way worse when everyone else does.
Like I think the reason why there's such a disparity between like watching like the Zack Snyder Batman versus Superman and then like your Christopher Nolan like Dark Knight Rises is, Dark Knight Rises, a Dark Knight trilogy, he's just fighting human beings. People are, you hit them hard enough, you're going to hurt them. Whereas in like Batman vs Superman Justice League, like Superman just like blows him too hard. The man's gonna like fucking insane.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and it's not even that they exist. It's more that like it's not acknowledged how fucking ill-equipped for this situation.
100%.
Like surely, like no matter how good this guy is with the bow and arrow, no matter how good. An army of Satari or whatever the hell they are, aliens with lasers, have got him beat. Like
the thing that's interesting is in the comics they always have Batman as the best prepared person. So like he's prepared himself for Superman. He has kryptonite. He'll have a kryptonite ring that he wears all the time. Yeah, there's a great storyline in the comics called the Tower of Babel. I don't know which one. Whereby what happens is. You remember Ra's al Ghul, Liam Neeson's character. So Ra's al Ghul finds out that Batman has made contingency plans for if any of the Justice League go rogue and start trying to and go bad. Mm-hmm. And he uses all his contingency plans on all of the Justice League. So it's really interesting to see how prepared Batman is for any situation. He has a backup if any. It's like Wonder Woman.
That's a good like idiosyncrasy.
Whereas in the movies, you just get the idea that he's just some dude who likes to beat people up. What the fuck is going on? You know what I mean? Like he's the world's greatest detective.
The preparation, like the maniacal, like
we should do it. We should do an episode on Tower of Babel because that's fucking incredible. Yeah. Go on. What's your next one?
Well, I just did Badass Normal Guy, didn't I?
Please. I've put as my next one is the Stormtrooper effect.
Yeah.
And this happens in any movie, like every single one. Like it's obviously Star Wars referencing, but like any movie,
you know what we're talking about when you say that.
Like any superhero or any good guy, every single shot is like. It's like round a corner, it goes through a windpipe and like round a roundabout and still hits the guy. And then like the bad guys couldn't hit.
Literally be standing in front of him.
Exactly. Like it's like what the fuck. So like
I agree, it's kind of lame.
Yeah. I just feel like, and especially even tying back to the one you just said, I feel like if you've got these characters who could die. Give us some reason to think that they might die.
Get him hit a couple times.
Yeah, exactly. Like Hawkeye. I'm sorry, we keep talking about Hawkeye, but he
poor guy
should have died.
Deserve this
so many times.
Yeah, for sure. How about the bus full of innocents? Substitute train. Substitute ferry. Substitute whatever. I just don't need to see it. I know he's a superhero. I know he's going to save them.
Yeah.
Or get more creative with how you do it. And by creative, I don't mean change the vehicle. I mean, like, make there be more substance to what's happening than Spider-Man just, like, slinging a spider web.
You said it. The worst culprit for this is definitely Spider-Man movies.
It is. It's like every movie.
Just the Raimi trilogy. I think every single one of them had that almost exact same scene.
And it's crazy because it like carried on to this one too. With the ferry. The ferry is where I got.
Oh my god!
That's from the new one.
I didn't even think about that.
There's at least a little more like interesting cinematically.
Yeah, they threw you a curveball with that one. Though. He only got 98%.
Because it was like also it was like he had the Iron Man thing. It was like all the hit points. He was like, oh awesome.
Only got 98%.
Yeah, it was creative.
But that's so true. Like you see that in so many things. Like even in I think about the Avengers: Age of Ultron. There's a scene when the is it
Sokovia
that is raising off the ground.
She brought her accent back, by the way.
She did bring her accent back.
Sorry, that was really random.
I know. I keep thinking about things from WandaVision that we didn't talk about. Yeah. We didn't even talk about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier TV show spot that was in the Super Bowl. We might actually do. We might actually do a little commentary on that actually, and maybe start. Do you fancy doing like a little YouTube thing? Do get a bit of algorithm in there. Let's do it. Okay. Well, anyway,
evil algorithm.
Anyway. But like when the city is like raising above the ground and blah blah blah, there's a scene when a car is falling off and Captain America like leans down and grabs it, and it's the same thing. It's obviously smaller scale because he's just one dude who's just a bit steroided up.
I remember.
But it's like it's the same trope, and I'm like, stop it. Superman catching the plane in Superman Returns. It's the same thing.
Like, give me something more interesting. Like, there's like an old woman and she's about to die. And there's this young business dude who's probably a twat, and he's about to die, and they have to make a decision. And it has repercussions, and they have a moral, they have a guilt about it.
I
don't care about the candid fucking bus shot anymore or whatever.
I understand the bus.
Yeah.
I understand the bus because it puts a lot of people in jeopardy very quickly. Like, not just one, like you say. Well, actually, the fun thing about the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire was that wasn't it a choice if he had to either save the bus of people or save Mary Jane? That was it.
See,
right?
That's intriguing, right? I forget if that actually happened, but that's the way they should make it.
Guess what, guys? Spoiler alert: he saves them both. Funny that.
No
that's
issue.
That's a scene. So apparently, there's a really interesting fact about. I think it's the first one. So if you see the trailer, I'm pretty sure it's the first Sam Raimi movie. The original trailer for it was, so you saw a chase where a helicopter was like fleeing a scene, and then out of nowhere, it's in between the two towers Twin Towers in New York?
Twin Towers, yeah.
Twin Towers in New York, and Spider-Man's webbed across them and catches the helicopter
yeah.
And it's this iconic thing. But that was right around the time of 9/11, so they had to pull that, not just that scene, but the trailer, all of that was just gone.
Wow.
And it was really interesting. So around that time as well, and if you remember, just when he catches the bus and he catches the girl, and he's trying to like save both, and he's like really struggling, and then the Green Goblin's about to swoop in and kill him, and then you get all the New Yorkers being like, "You take on one New York, you take on all of us," and throwing shit at the Green Goblin. By the way, that shot on the Green Goblin's unbelievable from nowhere. Just smacks him in the head with a bit of trash. Anyway, that's the reason for that massively pro-America, pro-New York sort of like stand together message in that movie because of what was going on in the real world.
That makes sense.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's funny how
America it was crazy how like overnight how many like flags and stuff people put up. I remember living there and being like, whoa.
We're getting way off topic. I'm sorry, I've derailed us again. My next one, I'm going to come back to another one because I want to mention this before we run out of steam. My next one is fridging of a character, and I mentioned this before. Now, fridging is an interesting term because it has lost a bit of traction in movies recently, which I'm massive on. But the point of fridging, to explain it to anyone who doesn't know, is that there is a usually female character who is introduced in a superhero story, basically to be murdered to give the hero the push he needs to become the superhero.
To be murdered or to
be.
die?
So the usually female character is created to die, basically. The only reason this person is introduced into a story is to be killed by who is later going to be a villain or whatever. And it's incredibly problematic because it's just showing women as being like
tools,
disposable, and just a reason for a man's heroism.
Yeah,
it's like, it's nonsense. And it came from like a Green Lantern comic years and years ago, the term fridging, because it had been a trope for so long, and then it was done whereby the Green Lantern's girlfriend, this new Green Lantern's just been introduced, and literally he found her shoved in the fridge, hence the term fridging.
Yeah,
and it's like, it's just, come on guys, like it's 2021. We don't need like a person to die as a superhero's, motivation anymore. Like,
yeah, I think it is a fair point that I haven't seen that in a while. Probably because there has been pushback of like, give female characters more agency and all that kind of stuff, which is totally fair.
Not even just that,
but it is. That's part of it. It's like if all your purpose and agency in a movie is to die to motivate the male, like you have no agency as a character.
100%, 100%. And strong female characters, man, like there are enough of them in comic books nowadays that we can lean on them. I'm excited for all, like, Wanda's a strong female character. She's
great. I've come around to her.
She might be nuts in this show.
I've come around her because they've been able to give us this side of her that's actually more likable,
fleshed out.
Yeah, fleshed out. Like 100%. That's the best part of the sitcom stuff.
And that's the problem. And that's obviously been the problem. And the key thing is that, like, Black Widow is only just getting the movie 15 years later. It's like, come on.
Partly delays, but yeah, I take your point.
But you get the point. Okay, what's your next one?
By the power of, aka the hero has a specific word or phrase they have to say
Shazam!
To activate their powers. Yeah, like I don't need it.
Yeah,
Shazam is kind of funny.
I like Shazam.
Shazam is good, but like Flame On from fucking Fantastic Four. Doesn't the Green Lantern say something?
I honestly can't remember.
The Wonder Twin powers activate, like that kind of stuff.
What's the one from Captain Planet?
Fuck.
That's a throwback.
Captain Planet. I don't remember, but they all put their rings up.
Yeah.
Earth, fire,
wind, pterodactyl. I can't fucking remember.
I'm sure it's like Power Rangers probably did it too.
But they had like the Power Rangers, didn't they? They had like the what did they all said their dinosaur, the Mighty Morphins, and then it would like combine together. I do know this. I've watched. I know it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I already know what it fucking.
What is it?
But I can't remember how it starts. That's the annoying thing.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Mastodon, pterodactyl, triceratops, saber-toothed tiger,
all comes
tyrannosaurus.
Together, and then they just like.
And then they turn into their like Power Ranger.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a bit. We don't have to dive too deep into that one. But I like Shazam though. It's a bit tacky, isn't it?
I'm trying to think of other examples.
But Shazam's funny. It's a funny movie.
That's why
they're making fun of it.
That's why I like it. They're almost making fun of it in that movie, which is great because it's such a stupid fucking name. All right, I'm gonna chuck my next one at you, which is, and actually kind of rolls on from this, from what we were just talking about. But I kind of like this as a trope, so it's not necessarily one that I want to get rid of. 50-50, right? So it's a superhero testing their powers.
Yeah.
Okay. So like there are a lot of mixed versions of this. So I'm gonna equate two heroes very quickly, who essentially do the same thing in their movies. One really boring and one really good. So the Man of Steel movie is really fucking boring when he just keeps jumping up and down and landing. You're like, great, we know he's gonna fucking fly. Like, I don't need to see this over and over. But then, for example, going back to what we just talked about, the Shazam movie. You see the Shazam movie and you're like, fuck, that's actually awesome.
Well, it's done in a humorous way that's creative and different.
Exactly.
And also, like, real to what a kid would probably do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, they added that element.
And then they film it on social media and they're posting it and it's like... But isn't that how the main bad guy Mark Strong finds out where he is?
I think so. I think he's like got a YouTube or like he gets famous or there's like something goes viral.
So that's fair. That is a trope that has been overdone to death, and that's a nice one that we can throw in there and say, okay, well actually they've done something a bit different for once.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's going on? Give us what I think we'll do is we'll do maybe one or two more each, and then we'll just blitz through a few more.
Let me pick. So I think of the ones left I have that I don't like.
Yeah.
And I'm on the fence here, but idiosyncratic supervillains who are really, really obsessed about one specific thing and incorporate it into everything they do. like the Riddler, the Joker, like fucking who else?
What kills the dinosaurs?
Yeah.
The Ice Age.
The Ice Age.
That's the first thing I thought
freeze over. Like my heart is frozen. Like, dude. You cold, we get it, bro. We get it.
I do think that's quite annoying.
There needs to be a little more depth to my villains.
Yes, agreed. Yeah. And we've got a lot more of that recently. Like so you mentioned.
You couldn't say Thanos was that.
It's funny
except for
the
you
Riddler there.
Inevitable.
Yeah, he was inevitable.
But
one that you did mention there was the Riddler. I love that because they are probably doing the Riddler in the Batman movie. Mm-hmm. Robert Pattinson, and I think that could be really interesting because that looks like a dark, gritty universe. No, that's actually, funny enough, a trope. The dark, gritty remake of the superhero that we've not talked about. That we probably should have.
That's like a more that's like a whole trope. Yeah.
I mean, that's since when did the first Batman come out? That's the
well, they did it, and then
Batman.
Like everybody else tried to do it.
No, everyone's anyway. Look, you're right. I'd love to see what they're going to do with the Riddler because I mean, like in that universe, it wouldn't make sense for him to be the Jim Carrey character, from Batman Forever, whichever one he was in, and so that's going to be.
I reckon like it can be like really one specific thing if it's done like something where they're like they become so obsessed with something it's actually affected their life in a terrible way to the point where they've now become villainized and whatever.
Yeah, agreed.
Like it'll be interesting if they do it creatively, but where it's like a pun. And where it's campy, which is what it usually becomes when you have like a punchline that you're associated with at every crime.
Agreed. Then we haven't seen that for a little while though. There's not been a lot of that.
Let me think. We'll keep going, and I'll try and think of an example.
I'm gonna. Okay, yeah. Well, then I'll finish off with my. I'm gonna do my final one that we'll actually talk a little bit about then. And you know what? I'm gonna bring back an old favorite. I reckon we've probably mentioned this at least 4 times on the podcast in just things we've been reviewing. At least, maybe 3. Anyway,
okay.
And you're going to like this one, I think. It's having a clearly attractive human being dress up in frumpy clothing, like oversized tops, oversized pants, putting glasses on them, making them look like a dork, and then all of a sudden we're supposed to believe that these guys are like not Halle Berry,
or like just that like all they needed was a makeover. Like what happened in fucking Wonder Woman.
Side, That's the flip side of it as well. Like all they needed was to buy the dress. It's like, fuck off, man. Like social media is going to tell you you're attractive enough these days. It's
I guess it's like, don't try and fool us. We knew
exactly.
It's kind of dumb.
You can. There are ways of, if you really want to make one of these actors look, very different. There are ways to do that. There's no need to just chuck on some baggy clothes. Like someone I'm going to mention in a moment from the Wonder Woman movie, like, just, it didn't make sense. Like, the whole thing was she bought a dress and all of a sudden she was like, anyway.
It's like you couldn't have done that before.
And I think that as well, yeah, I mean, that kind of also leads in a little bit to, like, the dual personalities of superheroes. I'm a little bit sick of that trope as well. Like,
how do you mean?
Superman just puts on a suit and combs his hair and he's all of a sudden not Superman.
I don't really think they do that anymore now.
Well, they have Superman as a character.
But, like, Marvel, I guess my point is, like, generally speaking, it's just him. Who else is, like,
Batman? There's I think a lot of DC like that. The current Marvel crop often,
DC's face is covered. Marvel, or Batman, his face is pretty covered.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He has a dual identity. You don't know who he's.
Oh, you mean dual identity as in like I sorry, I thought you just meant like it was super like obvious that his dual identity was terrible.
Yeah. Well, look. Anyway, this is complete nonsense. Okay, do you want to just run through a few quick ones?
I'm pretty much done with like shitty ones, so we can go into good ones for me. But you can.
I'll just give you like 2 or 3 that I'm kind of sick of. So, plot armor, sick of it. Don't need to see it anymore. But
like there has to be some.
No.
There has to be. How do you build an arc if everyone's expendable?
The reason
someone will eventually have plot armor.
The reason we both love Game of Thrones so much is because anyone could die at any point.
Yeah, but someone eventually will have plot armor.
And don't get me wrong, if your movie's called Batman, I don't expect Robert Pattinson to die in the first 15 minutes. But at the same time, maybe make it so that some of the other characters might be able to die. An Alfred, a Jim Gordon, who knows? Like, I get it, they're staples, but anyway, I'm getting way off topic. Wishing. I think that mainly falls into the most recent Wonder Woman movie, where like a wish, you have something, you make a wish and everything goes crazy.
That's pretty targeted.
Complete nonsense. No, there's a few other examples I've just gone off the top of my head. The original cast ushering a new set of characters who are the same but very slightly different.
I hate that.
Nonsense.
I hate that.
And the one that I really don't like is when the superhero has like a personal connection to the villain. It's like, there are 7 billion people. Like, you don't have to be like in that latest The Amazing Spider-Man movie with Andrew Garfield. Like, his dad worked with the bad guy and the bad guy was the professor.
That's a lot of Spider-Man. Spider-Man has a lot of connections.
There is a lot of that. There's a lot of different ones. There's a lot in other things as well.
No, but I guess I'm just agreeing. Like, I'm realizing that you're right. He's one connection away from every single villain.
He is absolutely that, which is, that I don't like that.
Yeah. Well, I like the like on the opposite side of that, like the create your own villain, where it's like something the superhero has done or influenced, maybe even like tangentially, is what kind of creates a villain.
Sure.
I'm okay with that as long as it's. I agree. You're having them one step removed is usually a bit unbelievable.
Well, I think that kind of wraps it up a little bit for tropes we're sick of. Look, we could talk about this all night, and I could have gone into them to perfect those ones I just rattled off for you, but I quite enjoyed just tearing a few things to pieces. Yeah, enjoyed that?
No, it was good. It's good. It's always fun.
I just think some of these superhero movies just need to pinch themselves a little bit. It's about time, isn't it? Anyway, well, thanks for sticking through that, guys. We'd love to know which tropes you're sick of. What do you want to see? What do you want to see abolished from superhero movies? We've probably missed a good few. So let us know. thepodcastassemble@gmail.com.
Podcast_assemble at Twitter.
We got this. Yeah. We do have a few bits of correspondence this week, mainly around WandaVision. So
I threw it out there, asked for some tinfoil theories, what people were thinking of the series so far. Friend of the show, Luke, says he thinks it is a way that they're going to be introducing the X-Men, having Quicksilver in there. And he's really enjoying the show. Thanks, friend of the show, Luke. And he also thinks it's going to be the way they introduce Doctor Strange, which we posited last week.
I mean, that's like, it's almost so obvious. I wonder if they won't.
Me too.
You know?
Me too. You wonder, like, so there was a bit in it when Monica Rambeau was like, "Oh, I know something engineer." If the words evade.
Oh yeah, who are they going to bring in? Some people think it's going to be the Fantastic Four guy.
It could be Reed Richards, but then it could be, because they're doing the Ironheart TV show. It could be Riri Williams, who also can do that shit as well. I mean, she creates her own Iron Man suit. Yeah. But that's a really interesting one. I personally don't think this is going to be how they introduce the X-Men straight away. If this show does lead into the X-Men, I think it's going to be something a bit more wacky further down. Like, she's going to just like fucking tear the dimensions
down. It does seem like it'd be like pretty aggressively soon after they got the property to just throw the X-Men in. Like, it seems like this next phase was properly like planned, like well before 2020 and 2019.
Well, the interesting thing is,
I don't know how they'd change it a lot if they just added the X-Men in. Like,
well, the interesting thing is, you look at the slate. It's very early to be having this reveal. If this is how A, the multiverse is open, and B, it's closed. So like, you introduce the multiverse, which, you know, the comics, huge, amazing. Like, you can look at Elseworld stories however you want, but it's very quick to just throw it open and close the door.
Well, they may not. Maybe it doesn't get closed, man. Maybe they've like because you have to remember by like taking the Infinity Stones like back in Endgame, one of them, it's already fucked. One of them, they lose one, and they can't return it. So that's part of what Loki's show is about. And so that could have like fucked up. That could have been part of like what fucked up the multiverse. And maybe it is forever fucked up. And it's more like, how do we contain it?
Okay.
How do we? You never know where they can go.
And maybe all the next all the next slate of films are all going to be just like from wildly different dimensions stuff. That's really interesting. Yeah. Thank you, friend of the show, Luke. We really appreciate you writing in. Another one, friend of the show, Ollie, old fave, messaged in a couple of weeks back. He posits that he thinks that Wanda may end up killing Vision. Now, I think this is a really interesting one. He says, I'm going to read it. He says he's thinking that that Vision is gonna essentially try and stop her, whatever she's doing, or he's gonna become her antagonist.
Yeah,
in the
they're gonna battle for sure. Yeah.
They're gonna, and she will eventually end up killing him again. What do you think about that?
I could see it, mainly because I don't know how you use Vision after this. Well, and I think it's like the only way to really progress her to full villain.
My only problem with this is that if she is the only reason he is together and alive, it's not going to be hard for her to kill him. It's the emotional toll. So what I think it's going to be is the fact that he's going to basically go rogue and say, you know, like, I don't want any part of this, and it's going to snap, and her having to kill him again. Mm-hmm. That's what's going to finally snap her and make her into the big villain that I hope she becomes. Like, I hope. So my hope for the show is, sorry to cut you off there, is I hope that it Vision sort of like ponders it in this episode this week. I hope that she was originally being manipulated by someone to make all this happen, but she's enjoying it so much and she's so comfortable that she doesn't want to let it go, and now it is her. It's like, when does it flip from being like someone else manipulating to her being the actual villain? And I hope that's what happens.
There's totally an element, like they've obviously hinted at, like she's not in control of everything.
Yes, 100%.
And some of it's outside of her. So we'll see what that means. Anyway, thanks for the comments that already got us going back onto WandaVision. We're already theorizing again.
Yeah, thanks for the show. And the last one was just friend of the show, Andy, who said he's really loving the show. And he asked, what are we thinking of it? I think we've thoroughly covered off what we think of the show so far. Dre hates it. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm definitely intrigued. I'm excited to see how they close it out. It's also just the fact that it's such little snippets.
Yeah.
I'm craving so much more that I'm like, why was half of it a sitcom? Well, give me more.
Well, apparently the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show is going to be more like 40-minute episodes.
That'll be interesting.
Which is going to, obviously these are like 20, 25-ish.
Yeah, well, there's probably going to be way more action in those.
It's apparently been given like a higher TV rating in the US. So this one, the WandaVision is like...
You mean like more...
PG-12, whatever it is, and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is apparently PG-14. So more blood and violence, maybe a little bit of
2 years
maybe a bit
more.
of swearing in there.
Yeah, 2 years more.
Well, yeah, thanks to everyone. Thanks, friend of the show, Andy. Yeah, we really appreciate it. What do you guys think is going to happen in WandaVision? Let us know. Where can they find us?
We already did this, but the podcast
you got to keep that rolling.
gmail.com.
Podcastassemble@gmail.com, yeah.
And then podcast_assemble at Twitter.
You've just got to repeat it. People keep telling me it's all about repeating it. So we've got
your own plug.
Got to get our names out there.
Yeah, fair enough.
Apparently. Sell our souls. Well, thanks very much, guys. We really appreciate you sticking with it.
Yeah, thank you guys. Have a good one.
Cheers, guys. See you later. Bye.